This part of our review is about procedures and functions. So our first example is a function definition. Let's take a look here. The first thing it wants to know is what's the data type of this function compute product? Well, if you look at the function definition, the data type of the function itself is always the last thing in the header. And here we can see it's type string. So the answer here is A. Okay, what are the local variables of function compute product? Well, the local variables are the variables that are declared inside the function. So here it will be return val and product val. That's answer B. What are the formal parameters? Those are the names, that be quantities that are described in the header within the parentheses. And here we have two of them, pnum1 and pnum2. Okay, so that would be answer A. What are the arguments of the function call compute product 3, 5? Well, the arguments are the actual parameters, the numbers or quantities that you send in to be used by the function itself. And they're right there in the function call. So in this case, it's 3 and 5. That's answer D. Okay, now it wants to know what value is pnum2 set to when this function call starts. Well, remember how setting the values of the parameters works? You take the arguments and you match them up with the parameters by position. So here, the 3 gets matched with pnum1 and the 5 gets matched with pnum2. First with first, second with second. So here, the value for pnum2 is the value of the second argument, which is 5. So that'll be A. What does the function call return? Alright, well, to understand that, we have to look at the code. And we see that all that happens is we multiply the two arguments, set the return val equal to that turned into a string, and then set compute product to that. So if we take a look here, it's going to be 3 times 5, which is 15. As a string, of course, but we don't care. Same difference. Okay, a function call returns a value. Yes, that's true. A procedure call returns a value. No, that's false. Remember, a procedure does something, a sub-procedure, but it doesn't return a value. That function's only for that one. A function call may have formal parameters. Okay, now here you have to be careful. I said function call. The definition can have formal parameters, but not the call. So this one's false. A function call may have arguments. Yes, that's true. We just saw an example of that. A function call may have local variable declarations. False. That would be the function definition. The function call is just something short like compute product of 3 and 5. A procedure definition may have local variable declarations. That's true because I said definition, not call. A procedure definition may start with sub. Yes. Could start with public or private before the sub. It can also start with sub. A procedure call may start with sub. No, that's false. A procedure call wouldn't have the word sub in it. That would be the definition. A function definition may start with sub. That's also false. The function definition doesn't have the word sub. It has the word function instead. Okay, here's another function definition and some questions about it. So suppose that elsewhere in the program we have these variables x, y, and z, and the following code is run, and we want to know what the value of z is after we run this code. So, okay, first question, we're calling our function doMath with arguments 2 and 1. Alright, that means var a will be 2 and var b will be 1. So I have 4 times 2 is 8 and 1 is 9. and I set that to be the answer. So 9 would be the answer. That's D. Okay, now here I used variables as my arguments. I said x to 2 and y to 1, and then I called do math of 2 and 1. So basically it's the same, in effect, the same call I just looked at. So I know I'll get the same answer, which is D. Okay, next question. Notice what I did. I switched the order of these arguments. So by doing that, I've switched what gets hooked up with var A and what gets hooked up with var B. So here y is 1, so var A will become 1, and x is 2, so var B will become 2. So then I have 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. So that's answer B. Okay, here I have do math of x and x, and that's perfectly legitimate. It means both var A and var B will be set to the value of x, which is 2. So, I'll have 4 times 2 is 8 and 2 is 10. That 10's not in my list of answers, so I'll put E here. Okay. Here's another function definition. See if we can get everything together here. Okay. This one has an if in it. So, same kind of setup as before. So first of all, I want to know what happens if I give it arguments 2 and 1. Var A becomes 2, var B becomes 1. Okay, if var A is 2, 2 is bigger than 1. So my answer is going to be 4 times 2 is 8 and 1 is 9. Then I add 3, so I get 12, and that's my answer. So the answer here is D. Now this code is available to you in the application I posted on the class site. So if you don't understand, you should go through it step by step and examine each line as you do it so you see what's happening. Okay, next question. We have x and y. They're set to the same values, 2 and 1, as what I used here. And so I should get the same answer, D. Now I switched them, so I'm doing y and then x. Alright, well in that case, var A is 1 and var B is 2. So this is not true. 1 is not greater than 1. So I'm going to get 0 out of the if statement and then add 3 to it. So my final answer will be 3, and that's A. Okay, then I'm asking about x and x. In that case, both of them are 2, because I set x to 2. So var A is 2 and var B is 2. So 2 is bigger than 1, so I'm going to get 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2 is 10. And then add 3, so 13 will be my final answer. That's not in the list, so E. Finally, I want to know what happens if both variables are 1, both arguments. Okay, 1 and 1. Well, 1 is not bigger than 1, so from the if statement coming out of there, the answer is 0. I add 3, so I get a 3 as my final answer here. That's answer A. So the idea here is you should be able to read simple code like this, match up the arguments with the parameters, and figure out what the function does, what the if statements do, etc. Okay, here's the next set of questions, and this is a little more complex thing where we have a procedure here calling a function. So we want to know what happens if the user enters a 4 in the text box. Okay, so text box value gets turned into an integer and assigned to input val, so that's 4. Now we do an if statement. 4 is not bigger than 5, so we're going to do the else part. So the first thing we do is call compute answer with the arguments 4 and 4. Alright, so let's look at compute answer. That means that p first and p second are both 4. So we're going to have 4 plus 4 is 8 and 3 is 11. compute answer will return the value 11. So right here, answer val is 11. Then we add 5. 11 and 5 is 16. So when we finish the if, we have a 16. And then we add 1, so we get 17. So the answer we're going to print is 17, and that's answer D. Okay, next question. What if it's a 7? So in this case, we read a 7, turn it into an integer. 7 is bigger than 5, so we're going to do the if part. Okay, that means we start by calling compute answer with arguments 7 and 5. So if we come down here, P first will be 7, P second will be 5. So we have 7 and 5 is 12 and 3 is 15. And that's what we return, the 15. So we do this, we don't do the else part. So coming out of here, answer val is 15. We add 1 and it's 16, and that's what we print. So 16 is C. That's our answer. Okay, for practice, you have this code. You can try figuring out what this thing returns for or prints for other values of the input. Try to predict, work through the code, and then see if you can get it right. Try some that are smaller than 5, some that are bigger than 5, or you can even change the code. Change the function or change the greater than 5 to something else, and work through some examples and see if you can do them. That's a really good way to study.